So I'm on a Kubota Z781 with the bagger attachment, and it's an integral part of our gardening and farming concept to collect grass clippings. It's fuel for our compost. It's nitrogen fuel for the compost pile, and it's also a very effective mulch. Okay, so we cut often. We don't let our grass go to seed so that the clippings don't have any seed in them. So you mow frequently, you collect those clippings, and it's a very effective mulch. If you let it go to seed, then you're just kind of coaxing a lump because you'll have a bunch of seed. So I'm gonna mow a little bit, and then I'll show you what this looks like. Okay. So I just made a couple passes. This is what we've got. Okay. Now, as I was saying before, we want to mow frequently before the grass goes to seed, so that we don't have a lot of seed material in it. If it does have a lot of seed material, we incorporate it into our compost, because the heat of the composting process will kill all the seeds. Okay. Now, if we have good grass that doesn't have a lot of seeds in it, we'll use it for our mulch on top of our rows. So these mulchers, these baggers are really handy, and they're easy to use. And we have the kind that, you can just dump from the seat, but we prefer the bag kind because we can take that bag out and just spread the mulch on top of the rows real easy. That's a Kubota Z781. This is going to become the absolute essential tool for everybody that wants to do our form of gardening. So this is Matthew Unger. He's Tim's son, and he's a very good machinery operator. He can run the excavators, tractors, skid loaders. Matthew's is going to operate the SVL 75 with a brown compost turner. Okay, and so we're going to show you how we turn the compost to keep it hot and keep it degrading consistently. So that is a Brown manufacturing compost turner. They make the Brown tree cutter. It's a great product that was always what was used to clear right-of-ways. You put it on a tractor, a 6-foot tree cutter, and it would cut anything. That is a very effective tool for incorporating diverse materials into a compost row. Okay, so you can take wood chips, hay, grass clippings, food waste, and use that to incorporate it to make it a uniform consistency and content across, and then you turn it regularly so that it decomposes consistently.
Well, so the process, for me at least, I figured out, is layers. So I'd get up on the pile, it kicks it over, and what that's doing is everything on top, you see, and this is what, he's taught me, everything on top's all dry, and that's not, that's not going to work. So everything kicks over to one side, basically taking the bottom, putting it on top. It's a simple process. You go over it once, back up, do it again, do it again.
So Matthew, the big point is you can't let it dry out, because the microbes die, and then you have anaerobic activity going on in this pile.
Right.
And the one thing they both require is moisture.
Moisture. And
so this is an SVL 75 that's got about 3,000 hours on it. Came out of our rental fleet. It's a perfectly functional machine. It ought to be good for 10,000 hours. It's been wonderfully maintained. And this is a Brown compost turner. And Matthew uses this skid loader for so many things on the farm, but this is just one of them. And you're going to love what you see here. This compost is going to be the biggest part for Kubota, because it's going to require these kind of implements to make the compost. You see the steam coming off of that? That is the anaerobic decomposition taking place. It's creating a tremendous amount of heat. It can be as much as 200 degrees inside that pile. And that compost turner is integrating and turning and aerating all at the same time. This is the medium in which we grow plants. Jeff will show you all of these raised beds are all made out of that material. And the more properly it's completed in the compost cycle, the more effective it is as a medium to grow plants in. What you see behind me are piles of various types of material that we incorporate, among other things, into our compost. You've got grass clippings, and you've got horse manure. Now, I have a horse farm, so I bring 30 cubic yards of horse manure a week down here to Tim, and he incorporates that with wood chips I get from my arborist customers and the grass clippings that have seed in them, and we'll blend those together, plus any food waste we have, and that's what you end up with, this beautiful integrated compost that is it has so many nutrients in it and wonderful microbial activity that Matthew is aerating right now. So you can see how wet this pile is, and we have not incorporated any moisture into this. You see where these tracks are? That's practically mud. So there's a lot of moisture in this material. The point is that we have to keep moving it around and spreading that moisture into the drier parts of it. Okay? So the biggest part of compost is making sure that your moisture level stays the same and that you're constantly reincorporating the dry material into the damp material to keep the decomposition process going as quickly as possible. You see the steam coming off of it. I mean, it's 150 degrees in there if it's a degree, and it can be as much as 200. And that's why this turns black. It's oxidation. So it'll take the bright greens and the tans of this hay, and through oxidation, it turns it all dark brown and then black. And this is black gold right here, this compost. It is black gold. Matthew has turned the pile, and he's going to go detach the brown compost turner from the tractor. And I recommend we go buy that company, because that is a hell of a good tool, and we could sell the dickens out of these things. Small ones for tractors. You can shoot over to that tractor right there behind my car. They make them, compost turners that go behind that. They make them to go on a mini skid loader. These compost turners are a vital part of the most vital part of our process, because without the compost, we don't have a concept. Okay, and so this tool is a vital.
All right, so to detach this, you got these simple, standard, I believe on every tractor and every skid steer, these two levers. Those lift up. Those are your pins to hold the implement on. And then, since it's rotary, hydraulic ran, these two couplings come off, and you're good to go.
So the wonderful thing about this compost turner is it's practically indestructible, and it's working in a medium that is not it's soft, right? These things can last forever, and they're highly effective. And you can feel how hot it is. It's at least 100 degrees from the compost. But this mechanism is very simple and it's extremely durable. I mean, it can last 20 years doing what it's doing. And it's easy to operate. You almost can't mess it up. Now, I'm going to go run that Kubota L3901 with the loader and the reverse tine 74-inch rototiller. Now, I recommend the reverse direction rototiller. And I'm going to go just rototill a little bit, and then Matthew's going to get his bucket, and then he's going to get some compost, and he's going to create our rows. Okay, just to show you how the Kubota equipment helps us do our job. Because if we're going to be building these pods in people's yards, we need to be able to use this equipment effectively. And Matthew's really good at it, and so he's going to be a big part of our operation.
So the process, as you can see, we use a little bit of everything. So down there on that end, there's wood chips. In the middle here, that's horse manure. Right here is grass clippings, and this is straw. We're just trying to experiment, see what works best, or prove that you could basically use whatever you want as a moisture
retention tool, right? Even cardboard. We're thinking about taking cardboard and cutting cardboard to be our walk spaces, because it's really good at holding moisture in and promoting earthworms and everything else. So.
And then we come back after we build those rows, those walkways, with mushroom compost or whatever compost we have, and just rinse and repeat. About the same thing.
The seed tray, the concept is we show up at your garden if wanted, and we either leave the tray because you may like gardening and getting your hands into the soil, right? Or while we're there mowing, we know which plants need to be put where, and we'll just populate them for you. All right, but the point is, when you build a bed this way, first of all, this is how difficult it is right here.
That's the compost.
Yes.
That's why it works.
This is how difficult it is. Okay? This is really hard to do here. Sorry, I'm being facetious. Stick the plant in, push down, done. That's it. So we will take the better plants from this particular tray. Done. Now, with every plant, every row we do, we water every single plant, and then that's it. Now, we were able to collect some grass clippings a minute ago.
So we have a Z781 mower, which I think is perfect for the grass catcher because it's got enough power and it's fuel injected, so it works. So, and Tim wanted, instead of the hopper type, he wanted the bag type, okay? And the reason that is because, you know, once we fill it up, now this takes, you know, it depends on how thick your grass is, right? But it doesn't take long, you know, to fill it up if your grass is really tall or you're cutting really low. But this is most of the front yard of that house over there. You grab your basket of clippings, your bag of clippings, and you can carry it over to the garden. So if you had a hopper type, that's fine too, especially if you're composting most of it, because you can go over to the pile and just dump it without having to leave your seat, and so it's more productive. But for our application here,
yes, so we would normally have watered, right? And then all we're doing is taking this and creating a mulch on top. That's it. And we do the whole row, and then it'll look similar to that
in a couple days.
And then it'll break down and be reintegrated into the soil.
And so once this corn grows and is harvested, then Tim will come back with another crop. Right. And you might only get 2 crops after corn because corn takes so long to grow. But most of the other crops, Tim is going to get 3 or 4 crops out of each row. Okay.
Here's the thing, folks. A lot of people will say, "Oh no, you're putting those grass clipping down. You're reintroducing weed seeds." Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Partially true. Okay. But you need to mulch the soil. You need to keep it moist. That pile that Matthew was working on earlier, when finished, could be applied. There's no weed seeds in it then, and that goes into the pile.
Right.
You follow me?
But you still have to have a mulch. That's going to dehydrate, so you got to have a mulch.
That turns into compost, which is in turn a mulch when applied after it's broken down.
Okay. So you could use, if we had an adequate supply of compost, you wouldn't have to use this, and this could go into making the compost.
Well, because this is brand new, and because we have so much going on here, we don't happen to have that pile finished, but it will be very soon. Does that make sense?
But the best thing about all this is the variability. You know, God gave us a variable environment. So many things could be used for so many different purposes. And you know, it's not a one size fits all deal. And so Tim's,
Well, I'm happy to accept possibly a few weeds to have that mulch covering on there. And by the way, that's high nitrogen. I know a lot of it's going into the air, but that integrates really, really well, and it breaks down very quickly.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm willing to trade off possibly a few weeds. If this is a commercial setting, I'd make sure we're applying the compost as the mulch.
now the one thing to think about too, though, is if you mow frequently enough and bag frequently enough, then you're going to have less weeds and you're going to have less seeds. So the sooner you mow, if you mow every 3 or 4 days, your grass isn't going to go to seed. If you wait a week or two, it's got a seed head on it, which is going to introduce weeds into your garden. If you're mowing more frequently, you're just cutting the blade of grass, which has no seed in it.
Yeah, now I got to be honest with you though. We've been doing this for a long time at the other farm, and the weeds never have a chance to take off because the plants get up and fill the bed.
I gotcha.
Now you might get 1 or 2,
Yeah.
honestly, but it's way, way less. Plus, they pull out.
Yeah, easy.
Very easy.
So the point here is, you know, gardening has to be enjoyable, and it has to be relatively low maintenance and low labor intensity. Okay, and so using the compost, you have less weed seed in it. It's easier to pull a weed if it should come up. But also, you know, you can run your garden the way you want to. You can have a Martha Stewart-like garden where everything's absolutely perfect 100% of the time, or you can accept a little bit of imperfection. You know, we don't live in a perfect world, but you know, it's our nature as humans to want to perfect everything, and that's great. However you want to look at it. But this gives you the best opportunity.
I think that's a valid point, and all I'll say is, whether it's aesthetically perfect or you're accepting, it will produce abundantly in either scenario.
Yeah, and probably the same amount.
Yeah,
because the weeds aren't competing with the plant, because they're superficial. They're growing on the top in something that's not your direct nutrient source for your plant. Okay, so the weeds are an aesthetic issue rather than a competition issue for your plant, because your plant's rooted down below.